Tua for the rest of the
Yeah,
season.
they are, because the committee's told not to project. So they were number 5 going into play Mississippi State, won the game. Tua's thrown 33 touchdowns, only 3 picks. They should have stayed at number 5.
Yeah, and I don't think it's going to matter much what Tua did at this point. I could have seen the committee maybe on Tuesday saying, hey, with Mac Jones, we don't believe you're better than Oregon or better than Utah, but I'm okay. There's a lot of football left to be played.
All right, quick hitters through these, number 6 and 7 respectively. You've got Oregon and Utah, 2 teams out of the Pac-12. Let's just say all things stay equal. They meet in the Pac-12 championship. Are those 2 interchangeable for a playoff spot?
I think so. I think the only advantage that Oregon has right now is they beat the same USC team that beat Utah, but they're very close, and we'll get to see them play hopefully in the Pac-12 championship game.
I think if Oregon wins that game and they have 1 loss, they're the lock to get into the playoff. And I think they're the highest ranked 1-loss team because of their loss against Auburn in the non-conference. But if Utah wins, then I think the door's still open for Oklahoma sitting at number 9. Oh. They've still got Oklahoma State and a ranked Baylor team potentially in the Big 12 title.
All right, so you look at the rankings. I don't know how this happened, but Minnesota actually beat Penn State on a football field. But the committee has Penn State now over Minnesota in the rankings, right or wrong?
I'm okay with it, honestly, because of Penn State's schedule. They beat Michigan, beat Iowa, who beat Minnesota. They played terrible against Minnesota, too. They beat Pitt in non-conference. But, Joey, we know if Minnesota wins out, it doesn't matter. They're going in.
Yeah, and I think the fact that Minnesota came from 17 to make their jump up, then they lost that game. And so because they didn't get a lot of respect for being undefeated early in the season, then it makes sense for them to be
not much love
State.
going in. So the second they lost, they were able to put them back down. This is probably going to be interchangeable, but right now LSU on top, Ohio State second. Right or wrong, the 1-2 the way it is right now?
I think it's right. From a resume standpoint, LSU has the best resume. They have the best strength of record and strength of schedule.
Yeah.
So at this juncture, I'm okay with that. But that might change tomorrow with Ohio State and Penn State.
LSU's beaten 3 top 11
Saturday.
teams, right? They snapped Alabama's 31-game home skid. They're struggling on defense, though.
Right.
Joe Burrow's been great. That could all change, though. Ohio State, big games coming up. Penn State, Michigan, maybe Minnesota in the Big Ten title game. So number 1, that could move.
You have to think about it, too. I mean, LSU's a 40-something point favorite against Arkansas. You got a big one against Ohio State. I think these are going to be all interchangeable until Selection Sunday. But if you look at the potential for maybe, let's go carnage and let's go upset. Let's look forward to the championship weekend. Say LSU and Georgia. Say Georgia wins a close one. Mm-hmm. What does that do? And Ohio State and Clemson remain the same?
I think for LSU, as long as they enter that game number 1, I think they can afford a close loss to Georgia if Georgia's number 4 and still get in. Because of LSU's resume, I think it puts them in that position.
I agree with you. I think LSU then just drops down to maybe number 4.
Yeah.
I don't see them dropping out. Alabama sitting at number 5. It'd be very hard to put LSU behind Alabama in that situation. So if Alabama stays at 5, ahead of the Pac-12 in this situation, I don't see LSU.
The scenario you just painted is the one that the Pac-12 and the Big 12 don't
Can't have.
Because that potentially puts 2 SEC teams.
Same with Ohio State as well. You might think they have a little bit of house money with how dominant they've been, but I think we all agree Clemson loses against South Carolina, not getting in the college football playoffs. Still ahead, we are counting down to kickoff. Jeff Collins' first season as the Georgia Tech head coach. 2-8, not the greatest start, trying to get that program implemented out there to 404. Kickoff in under a half hour here on ESPN.
College Football Countdown is delivered by Papa John's. New garlic and Parmesan crust one-topping pizza, $10. And in part by Allstate, reminding you that football season is mayhem.
All right, to the big one of the Big Ten, Ohio State, Penn State. Ohio State first in the country in scoring offense, 51.5 points a game. First in the country in scoring defense, under 10 points a game. All of this is to say they're really good at what they do. So Penn State needs to put something together to pull off an upset. Talk to me about the Nittany Lions running game.
Yeah, and this is not easy to do, but to have a chance in this game, they're going to have to somehow establish the run game. And that doesn't mean rip off big plays. That means possess the football. That means get 4 or 5 yards at a clip if you can do it. And Journey Brown's been really good. But up front in the offensive line, you see these guys go to work. You got Gonzalez at guard and Manette at center, and you can see this is a combo block. So one guy has to take care of the linebacker, and that leaves a safety by himself in a hole against Journey Brown. He has to make one guy miss to make it a big play. And so in this situation, Indiana is going to send a blitz. They're going to play man-to-man across the board. They will have a free safety cover, nobody just sort of roaming the field. Penn State really good against man-to-man coverage. You see in this situation, Sean Clifford realizes there's no one on the back end. The other defender is falling down. And more importantly, Sean Clifford was in the pocket for less than 2 seconds before he took off running. That would make it hard for Chase Young to get to him and make a play. This is a big run. He had 2 rushing touchdowns in the game against Indiana. And once again, it's the guard-center combo with the combo block. You can see the eyes down on the linebacker, knowing that he has to get up to the second level. Gonzalez does a nice job getting there, picks off the linebacker. And once again, a one-on-one Journey Brown against a safety, makes him miss, takes it to the house. Journey Brown has 2 straight games of rushing over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns in those games. If Penn State is going to have a chance, and if they have a chance to take Chase Young out of the game a little bit, you can't eliminate him, but take him out a little bit, establishing the run will keep their quarterback safe, and it'll help Penn State possess the ball.
You mentioned Chase Young. First time we're going to see that player in 3 weeks. He was suspended for the Maryland and Rutgers game for money that he had taken and since paid back a year ago regarding a bowl trip. So he's back. What kind of problems other than everything to see?
He's the most dominant player on defense in the country. You just heard the Penn State players talking about him. He's got 13.5 sacks. And, guys, I put him in the same category as a Jadeveon Clowney and Ndamukong Suh, Quinnen Williams, because he wrecks games. He takes over. He affects them. He affects the opposing play caller. He's a guy you have to account for each and every single snap. At 6'5", 265 pounds, he's so explosive. Quick first step and just fires out of his stance. Watch him here lined up to the right side. The right tackle doesn't even have a chance. He's in the backfield right now. 2.1 seconds, ball comes out. It's a turnover. Offensive lines are so afraid of his upfield speed, and here Indiana's going to slide over and try and double team him. But when you get too far outside, you now leave lanes inside. Chase Young going to switch directions. The center's too late getting to him. He's there in 2.5 sacks. Now he plays on the left side. If you're going to double team Chase Young, you have to commit to him. The left guard trying to help out the center, that's simply just not going to get it done. So we've seen in recent weeks, Penn State has had issues protecting Sean Clifford. Yeah. Rasheed Walker, their left tackle, he's very talented. He's been a bit inconsistent. He's going to have his hands full. And guys, guess what? We talked about Chase Young. He's been out of the lineup for the last 2 weeks. They had 7 sacks against Maryland without Chase Young. Yeah. So it's not like it's just him, but Chase Young, he's the game record, and he's the guy that Penn State has to find a way to account for.
You know he's going to be coming out with something to prove after having to sit. This could be fun to watch him back in action. Now, the spread right now is around 18.5 points, which seems like a lot, but history says the last 3 meetings, they've been as close as they come. Ohio State has won the last 2 by 1 point with late fourth quarter touchdowns, needs time to win it. These games have been classic. The Buckeyes have won 6 out of the last 7 and have an 84% chance to win this weekend. That according to our Football Power Index. We are counting down to kickoff. Freshman Devin Leary going to have to sling it tonight for that Wolfpack against Georgia Tech. Kickoff coming up top of the hour here on ESPN.
You're watching
PlayStation's top index performers. Texas wide receiver Devin Duvernay checks in with an 89 rating. He leads the Big 12 in receptions and receiving yards. Longhorns are going to need a big day from him this week. And if the Longhorns are to get a win against Baylor, Oklahoma and Baylor, they control their own destiny. If they win, they clinch their spots in the Big 12 championship. However, Texas holding on to a sliver of hope as they travel to Waco to play Baylor. Longhorns have won the last 4 against the Bears. So Baylor in action for the first time since blowing that 28-3 lead last week to Oklahoma. Do the Bears have a quick memory in this one and get Texas? And if so, what must they do? I
think we're going to find out how good Matt Rule is in his third season at Baylor. They haven't had a lot of success. And so this is a team that was undefeated, looking for respect, go into a game and get a huge lead and can't hold on to it in the second half. Now, you have a young team not used to success. Can you get that back is really the question mark. But they're going against a Texas team that is struggling on defense. And if I got to go against a team and I'm trying to get some confidence back, give me Texas missing tackles.
Yeah. And on flip side, I think one place Baylor has had success for most of the season has been on defense. Yeah. And I think their scheme in this game against Texas, I think lines up to disrupt Sam Ehlinger a little bit. I've been a fan of that 3-3-5 scheme we've seen from Baylor. And, they find different ways to get after your quarterback. They rush 3 D linemen, but then they mix and match where the pressure comes from. They've got 33 sacks this year. That's most in the Big 12. Texas has had problems protecting Sam Ehlinger. And then they do different things to spy your quarterback on third down. They use athletic linebackers. They use safeties on critical down and distances on third in this game. That could really, really well, I think, against Sam Ehlinger. So I'm interested to see how Ehlinger plays against the defense that's set up, I think, to do well.
I will tell you, in that first half when they were up 28-3, I don't think there was a better team playing football in the country at that moment than what Baylor did. They got to bounce back in a loss that I know has stuck with Coach Rule and Baylor. You look at the great state of Texas, they're 2 proud football programs. Texas and Texas A&M, both Tom Herman and Jimbo Fisher, have losing records versus ranked opponents since they have taken over, and neither have won a conference championship. It's really early in the tenures, and Texas A&M has Georgia this weekend on the road. Maybe a lookout alert for the Bulldogs. But let's go the state of Texas programs with the two of you. Jess, I'll start with you. Have either of them exceeded expectations, met expectations, or under expectations early on?
I don't know if they've exceeded expectations. I feel like when both programs hired those guys, I think the expectation was to compete for conference championships. I would say Texas is closer to achieving their goal. They're 6-4 this year, but they've been close. They lost to LSU, they lost to Oklahoma, Iowa State, all by just one possession. I think playing in the Big 12 is an easier pass to the national championship than the SEC West, certainly. Texas at least played in the Big 12 title game a year ago, right? They get Sam Ehlinger back next year. They're going to play LSU non-conference next year. That's a game the committee should give them credit for. So I would say now Texas is closer than A&M.
I think Texas is only closer because it's the Big 12, though. A four-loss Texas team at this time of the year, we didn't expect that. And because they played for the Big 12 championship, because they went in a bowl game and blew out a Georgia team, we expected Texas to be a pretty good football team. So sitting at this point in the season, not having a say in the Big 12 championship game is disappointing for them. Now, A&M, when you look during the SEC West, where you have Auburn, LSU, Alabama, they played Georgia out of the East, or they're going to play Georgia out of the East, and then you add Clemson.
Yeah.
And so what did you expect Texas A&M to do in this season? At the beginning of the season, you looked at their schedule and was like, they don't stand a chance of running this schedule. But Texas, on the other hand, we expected more.
Jimbo Fisher, year 2 at Texas A&M. Same story for Herm Edwards, Mario Cristobal. That's our Saturday night primetime game on ABC. Oregon and Arizona State from the desert, 7:30 Eastern ABC, and the ESPN app. Getting close to kickoff. NC State, Georgia Tech, Jordan Mason. 7 rushing touchdowns on the season. Can he continue it?